Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Massive human trafficking. It's a record 288 people arrested.
They're not reporting the real numbers.
The numbers are segmented and they are fictitious.
I started my career in 1997 in the United States Border Patrol. It was one of the most violent times in recent Border Patrol history. I made my bones and my reputation on that border. I believe what is happening on the border today is intentional.
We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them.
Our own government is facilitating the absolute destruction of the American immigration system, and I can prove it point by point. I'm unafraid to speak the truth. This is just data-driven and experience-driven.
Holy cow, they're throwing bricks at the police.
Get down! Get down!
Oh! Oh, he got fucked. Oh! Fuck yeah! Oh my god, he got fucked. Oh, he's fucked. Gotcha, bitch! Got this whole corral of materials, just a bag of rocks, a bundle of rocks, pallets, trash cans. Huh. Cinder blocks. What the fuck? These streets come riot ready or what? Oh shit! What the fuck? Ya mierda,
Welcome to Truth with J.J. Carrell. That, as CNN said, is peaceful. As one reporter said, this is overreaction by the Trump administration because these are just peaceful protesters trying to enjoy the burning vehicles. Why am I showing this topic or talking about this topic once more? Because it has accelerated the violence and the power and the strength and the treason has accelerated. And now we're seeing protests in New York City. So exactly I told you yesterday, both coasts will begin to burn hot, and then it will spread across America. I'm going to show you a post that now they're uncovering, right? The media would never do it. The politicians, the law enforcement will never do it because they're all corrupted. But what investigative journalists, which now own X, are doing is now they're beginning to connect all the dots. You saw that video, one of those videos where the individual's like, look at all these rocks and bricks and concrete cinder blocks right there, literally dropped off right there where the protest. How did that happen? We're seeing pictures of pallets of bricks dropped off in the middle of the street. This is all coordinated and organized. Thank you, Caleb. Can you throw up this map? This is, I want you to understand, what are all these dots? This is off a website called nokings.org. They are facilitating, it's like a clearinghouse. All of those dots are riots and protests that are going to happen on June 14th. Not June 14th, 2030. We'll deal with it then. June 14th, meaning this week. You see all those dots? Do you see any place that doesn't have anyone in there? Those places are in the Dakotas. That looks like somewhere in Nebraska or Oklahoma, and Lake Tahoe area in California, meaning there's nothing there. Every other part of America will be on fire. Get ready. This is not hyperbole. This is not, this is what I hear. No, you can take that off, Caleb. Thank you. This is what I know. I wrote about this in my book, Invaded in Treason. I did documentaries. I write about this. It's called logical thinking. If these things are happening, what is the logical outcome? And there's usually 1, 2, maybe 3 things that could happen. Usually it's about 2 things, a good and a bad, right? Something, and the third one's kind of like in the middle. I'm telling you that I've been seeing this for a long time, that once we decide to go in and arrest illegal aliens that have been allowed to live in our country for decades, been allowed to snub their nose at us, laugh at us, go through the due process and be told, yeah, I'm sorry, you're still going to be deported. And they say, yeah, pound sand. And then we are all shocked that when it's time for us to do the right thing, we're not going to get any pushback. That they're going to go, oh, okay, now I think that you changed your mind. Okay, I see that you're serious. And then you layer on top of these useless idiots, because that's all these illegal aliens are. They're just pawns. They're just stupid pawns. Then you lay over the anti-American communist organizations that are in our government, that are our politicians. Then you begin to understand the full picture. The great investigative journalist, a data Republican that has exploded on the scene, she came out last night with a tweet and a thread talking about who these people are. She found one organization. Just wait for this. She found one organization that is a major player in these riots in LA and going to be a major player in the riots across America. Do you know where they got, if I remember correctly, at least 60 to 70% of their funding last year leading into today? Well, they got all that funding from America. How much? Well, $24 million worth. The very first day Donald Trump took office, the very first thing he should have done, executive order stopping all payments to NGOs. I don't care if they were the greatest NGOs in the world. Every payment stops until we do a full audit on everyone. We America, are funding our demise. We are going out and hiring the hitman. And then we're telling the hitman, don't worry about a gun. Here, we purchase a gun for you. Don't worry about the ammunition. Here's boxes of ammunition. Don't spend any time investigating where your targets are. Here are all the targets that I want you to kill. In fact, don't even go get them. We're going to round them up and bring them to you. That is what America is doing right now by funding these NGOs. We are providing all of the mechanisms to kill us and resources to kill us. That's not hyperbole. That's not trying to get more clicks. That's just the truth. Why would you just take this as a personal level? Why would you take money that you have and gave it to, say, somebody that lived down the street that hates you, that's been trying to kill your dogs, their children, they're beating up your children, they're throwing stuff on your lawn, and you keep giving them money? And they ratchet up because now they have a flamethrower. Now they have a gun. That's all America's doing. America is funding our demise through the NGOs. The NGOs are the cancer. USAID and Elon Musk have already proven that this is true. The NGOs are the cancer. They are the mechanism. They are the vehicle the left uses to destroy America in every single way. You have Karen Bass, that is the DEI hire, mayor of Los Angeles. Not only is she used to work for the CIA. She was a community activist and organizer that created and facilitated riots. You have Gavin Newsom, that is seen repeatedly in the company of the Soros family, receiving endless amounts of millions of dollars. He's a governor that makes maybe $300,000-$400,000 a year max. He just purchased a $9 million home. It was a gift. When you really want to dive into how the politicians are making money is through mortgage fraud as well. They get gifted a house through a family member for, say, $9 million. So they take out a loan on the house for, say, $3 million. It's in my pocket. It's non-taxed. I just borrowed against my house. I have non-taxed money. And then I sell my house. Then I do it again. So I'm just stealing money. This is what's happened in America. You throw all of this. Look, I'm retired law enforcement, and I am proud, and I support every man and woman that's out there fighting. But I am telling you that if you want to witness firsthand how emasculated, how effeminate, how weak our law enforcement has become, just turn on your TV and watch how these officers act. It's embarrassing. And then we go above them and we go to the, quote, leaders of these agencies. All of them need to be fired. They allowed this to happen. They had to have known this was going to be the reaction in a sanctuary city with the vast majority of the people are illegal aliens, and the activists were ready to go, and they did nothing. Donald Trump, your 2,000 National Guard are not enough. That's sophomoric, it's reactionary, and you're not even doing it proportionately. You are doing everything half-assed, as we always do in these situations. There are tens of thousands of protesters violent. Why do you not have tens of thousands of National Guard and military down there? Why? Why is everything half-assed? Who is your inner circle, Trump, that's telling you this? Do you have American warriors that are telling you to go all in, or do you have a bunch of pencil neck geeks from Washington, D.C. think tanks telling you caution's the best thing. Caution. As the cities are burning, caution. Before I bring in my favorite guest, Ann Vandersteel, the way that we're able to stay on air and you can listen to truth, see truth, or you can just not and go to CNN and listen to them talk about burning cars are an act of peace and love. You can do that. But the best way to help us and support us is to go to the people, the companies that we have partnered with. And one of those is bellagrace.com. Caleb, can you either show a commercial of Dr. Lucky or of Beautiful Abby? One of the two is fine with me.
As a practitioner with a very large practice, at the very end of the day, I tended to be a little bit worn out. I wasn't covering from taking care of patients. In January, before we pre-launched the company, I was one of the very first people to get the 15-day samples. And right away, I was connected to the Bella Grace Collagen Elixir. Just an overall feeling of wellness, but also a little more energy. I recovered in my workouts, sleeping just more soundly, and then waking up the next day ready to take it on. For me, it was the power of three: the cat's claw, the astaxanthin, and of course, the best, most studied Verisol collagen on the market today.
Take the Elixir challenge. I did, and I did it, and the results were so great, I just stayed on it. I take an Elixir packet. It takes me back seconds to squeeze and digest, and it's done, and it's making incredible. It's incredible for my gut, my inflammation, my immune system. So go to shopbellagrace.com/truth. Shopbellagrace.com/truth. Now let's bring in Ann Vandersteel. Ann, so much is happening every single week. It's like the whole landscape changes literally day by day by day. What is your overall take on these protests, these riots, this violence that we're seeing in Los Angeles? Is it bigger than what it seems?
Well, it's certainly astroturfed. That's been proven already. I mean, we've got the evidence of that. You know, even the mainstream media in Los Angeles yesterday was live streaming, and they were watching organizers drop off masks. Oh, they thought it was supplies, people being gentle with food and water. No, they were giving people masks so they could cover their faces. And they were like, this isn't organic. This is organized. So the mainstream media is having their should we say, come to Jesus moment right now about what's really happening. But let's take it back, because you were talking about some very interesting points. Why isn't more being done? You know, why does it seem like it's sophomoric? Why does it feel like, okay, we sent 700 Marines. That's awesome. Because as you know, being in the, formerly in law enforcement, that Marines are the ones that are really the most capable of our military branch to go out and deal with the public, considering we have posse comitatus, right? Because we're not supposed to use military against the American people, but we have enemies on foreign soil. And you know, as well as I know, that we've had millions of really bad people come across our border thanks to the mushroom that sat in the White House for 45 years and did whatever his masters told him. So why not invoke Trading with the Enemies Act, right? This was actually enacted in 1917 during World War I, and it grants a president sweeping powers during times of war or declared national emergencies. So really, President Trump, if he wanted to be super vigilant at this and really, maximize the power that he has, he could declare this national emergency, which would have more than just an impact dealing with the crowd control, but he would also be looking at regulating transactions, specifically transactions or blocks of transactions with foreign entities that are deemed enemies or threats to America, namely, the cartel, which seems to be seemingly in control of most of our government. So again, if you go back historically, almost 100 years ago, in fact, JJ, under FDR in 1933, that act was actually amended and it was misapplied to the American people as part of a national banking emergency. So the Trading with the Enemies Act was actually partially superseded in peacetime by what's called as the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And in 1977, this was, invoked but it still applies during a declared war. So how does this apply to Trump? What can he do here? And how can he get more out of it so it doesn't seem like he's not giving us the full weight of what he has in his arsenal? You've heard him talked about trading with the enemies. He's already tiptoeing around it and putting it out into the public ethos. The mainstream media isn't going to pick up and run with it. You're only really hearing podcasters talk about it. So if he was to use the Trading with the Enemies Act in a modern application, he could assert this power under an Insurrection Act, which, you know, you've seen Colonel McGregor come out strongly and many other people. I stand behind that. Or military code or the emergency powers framework referencing the Trading with the Enemies Act. That way he can label cartels as foreign militants or enemy combatants. And then he could seize property. He could block transactions and he could halt any communications that are tied to entities of foreign operations or foreign organizations. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, allows you to do exactly what you were talking about when you said, why aren't we stopping these NGOs? Why aren't we sanctioning or seizing their assets? He could theoretically do all this under the TWEA, the Trading with the Enemies Act, and block funding and seize assets of these NGOs, which you and I all know are coming directly from the American taxpayer when it comes out of the United Nations, and the UN is funding hundreds of NGOs that are responsible for the infiltration and invasion, namely the International Organization of Migration, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, Jewish Family Services, Lutheran Family Services, Catholic Charities, and on and on and on. So this allows, Trump a big workaround and to just basically kneecap these organizations. And it then designates all mass illegal entry as foreign occupation. So this is how he can do it. And I'm not sure if he's just trying to carefully tiptoe in or he's not getting good advice or what. But let's put it out there and say, hey, President Trump, we just want to remind you this has been done and you can do it again.
Why don't you think it is being done this way? Because he has some of the best, or it seems to be the best, constitutional attorneys, as he says. So that means that those people are not thinking in the terms that you and I are, but they're thinking in cautionary, like let's use caution, let's be kind to understanding. These are Americans. No. This is different. I don't think America's ever seen or been in this situation before, Ann, where we've allowed the enemy by tens of millions to come into America. This is almost like, and I understand the idea of American military in our country and working on our soil. However, the enemy's not far away. The enemy is inside our walls. We have to come to grips with that. Why do you think that he's acting in such a slow, methodical way? It doesn't make sense to me.
The courts. We do not have control of the courts. We have a real problem in our legal and judiciary system. So if he declares a national emergency and this invasion that you and I mean, they say 12 million, you and I know it's more like 40 to 50, 60 million bad people in this country, people that shouldn't be here, people that didn't come here. So if he declares an invasion and frames this as a threat from a foreign hostile force, General Flynn even said 300,000 Chinese nationals, PLA, in fact, right? General Flynn is very strong with his language, and he's, really pushing. If he used the Trading with the Enemies Act and the IEEPA, this will give him mass power. The executive branch gets mass power to control the economic activity and communications for these foreign hostile invaders. And under the Insurrection Act, and I think it's 10 U.S. Code, I forget the subsection, like 248 or 284, something like that. If he uses that, the president can actually deploy military resources to repel invasions, and he can restore public order. But again, he has to publicly reference the Trading with the Enemies Act today and signal his intent right now to declare this invasion a wartime act, not just a border crisis, because it is a wartime act. Look, the Chinese have been using chemical jihad against us with Mexico for years, sending the precursors for this illicit drug use like fentanyl and killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So he has to prepare basically, and this is part of the court of public opinion. He has to prepare a legal framework to basically bypass these obstructionist courts and agencies, and he has to reassert his role as commander-in-chief under emergency powers rather than just a mere administrator under the civil statutory law. This would actually easily flip the whole legal strategy used by FDR back in 1933, but this time it would be against the globalists, the deep states, instead of against the American people. So there has to be, there has to be a lot of thought, there has to be a lot of court of public opinion, and there has to be a very deep strategic and lawful rationale behind referencing the Trading with the Enemies Act today.
Well, you're talking about the public opinion, right? Getting the public behind you. How can we get the public behind us when the media is completely corrupted? Then you say, well, what about podcasters and the internet and social media? Well, our politicians have allowed the social media platforms to have all the cake and eat it all themselves. And now we're looking at Section 230 going in front of the Supreme Court. How does that play into what we're talking about the freedom of speech and the ability to talk openly inside of these frameworks of these platforms?
Right. So in 1 week, less than a week, actually, June 18th, Fick versus Facebook, which is the case that will reassert the judicial interpretation, the proper judicial interpretation of Section 230, goes before the Supreme Court. For the Supreme Court, this is the third time Jason Fick has brought this case against Facebook to the Supreme Court. This time, the Supreme Court has weighed in less than a week after this writ of certiorari was filed, along with 3 amicus briefs that was heavily weighted with a lot of additional signatories in these amicus briefs in support of Fick. This time, the Supreme Court said, okay, great. We're going to let you know on June 18th that we're going to review your writ of certiorari, and we'll let you know pretty quickly whether we're going to schedule it to be heard. This is pretty groundbreaking that they came back so quickly. We typically, when a writ's filed, it takes 30 to 60 days before they'll give you a date that they're going to tell you when they're going to review it. So we thought we would be going through this long, hot summer. So I'm actually hopeful now at this point, considering we're watching the long, hot, reminiscent George Floyd Summer of Love 2.0 manufactured AstroTurf riots, dial riots type stuff happening now, that the Supreme Court recognizes that we have enemies on our soil, enemy combatants, and we have to be able to properly address them as such, and we have to get the court of public opinion to weigh in. So the only way the court of public opinion can properly weigh in is to have free speech. This is the only free speech lawsuit right now that is in the pipeline going into the Supreme Court that has any shot at all of correcting judicial interpretation. So far, Jason Fick, who was unlawfully shut down by Facebook, has lost his entire business and all of the business that he built on Facebook. 40 million fans following him across a variety of Facebook accounts. He's never had his day in court. He's never had due process. In fact, the Ninth Circuit shut him down and interpreted Section 230, which is to protect your free speech, such that it gave the platform total immunity, even when the platform, Facebook itself, was developing your content by suppressing it, by canceling it, by lowering it in whatever format, so that it wasn't being, read according to just authenticity of how the content was being posted. That's when the platform became a publisher, and immunity for the platform went out the window. But the Ninth Circuit didn't interpret that properly. 3 other circuit courts, by the way, in the country have seen similar cases and interpreted it properly. So now you see you've got circuit court conflict, which is why I believe this case is going to go to the Supreme Court on the merits with additional amicus briefs in support of Fick's argument to be heard by the Supreme Court. And I think they're going to try and expedite this, because clearly if you see our country is going down in flames with dial riots and funding from USAID and God knows how many quadrillions they've stolen over the last 50 years, as we now know, thanks to Doge, right? And that was a scratch on the surface of what they uncovered. But we understand it now. I think the courts recognize if this is the last stand, and if we go down, we are the Alamo for the world. If America goes and the Alamo falls, so goes the rest of the world. And I got to believe at some point the Supreme Court understands that with the people rising up around the world globally, recognizing the injustice of what's being done to humanity, that perhaps somewhere that the jig's up for them and they say, we just simply can't allow this. I'm praying that's the outcome, but we don't know until we find out. So this is why this Section 230 case is critical, because this information I'm relaying to you now will absolutely be wiped off. We'll all probably lose our accounts. And I can assure you that in 2028, we'll probably all be in jail if we don't win.
I don't think that's hyperbole at all. I think that's no. You think let's play this out. Let's say the Democrats steal and get 2028 and win, or Speaker Johnson continues to be inept and incompetent and fosters this environment where let's just vote for the Democrats, and then they get a Democrat like a Gavin Newsom as president. There is no free speech. It's gone. And we knew if Harris won that many of us would, at the minimum, we would lose our platforms. At the worst, we'd put in jail. We'd be they would have created some kind of law and manipulated it, and they would have brought us in as insurrectionists, and the media would have played right into it. Have you heard this? Have you heard this? As a side note, you mentioned Doge. Did you see where Zuckerberg is now asking to be a part of Doge, to run it?
You know what? I haven't seen that, but it certainly sounds like somebody who is concerned for their for their own personal safety and their personal, should we say, freedom. If all of a sudden he's having this kumbaya moment, as I said, come to Jesus earlier, and he wants a kumbaya, it certainly sounds like, unless of course it's all more theater. It's probably a lot of theater, because I do think the guy ideologically is owned, and he's just drank the Kool-Aid. I don't believe him to be an honest broker of anything.
No.
It's the reason. Why would you change the name Facebook to Meta when this lawsuit happened? You know, Jason Fick sued Facebook in 2018. They changed the name to Meta in 2020, I think it was. You know, again, just trying to get out of your corporate shell because there's a big lawsuit that's going to change how free speech is viewed. It's coming against you. Look, Facebook doesn't want to be held financially accountable. It could bankrupt them with all the amount of tort that could come behind all the people on Facebook who were sentenced and silenced by what they did. So to change the name of Meta, it sort of, should we say, gets them out of that obligation technically on a technicality, but it doesn't change the obligation of the courts to interpret Section 230 properly and hold platforms accountable when they violate your free speech. So I think it's interesting that he would take that position. I don't believe he's being honest as someone who's had some, come to Jesus with himself to be a good broker.
No, he's not having a come to Jesus moment. I understand Donald Trump's, the way that he uses his leverage is try to bring people into the fold, but I think there's something that goes sideways when you begin to bring people that have violated our Constitution, that have violated our freedom of speech to enrich themselves, like a Zuckerberg, and bring him into the fold, into the White House to discuss. I don't agree with that. I think there's coming a time, or there has already come a time, where the lines have been drawn and the sides have been chosen. And we need to fight in that manner of, no, you're not allowed to cross over anymore. I'm sorry. You've committed so many atrocities. You are now going to be punished. And I don't believe America is there yet. What do you think is going to take, Ann, to get America to wake up, fully wake up? Or is that possible?
Well, what I'm about to tell you is, I think, going to be a little bit earth-shattering and break the mold on some of this stuff. And, this goes back to the heart of the matter. This corrupt judiciary. Why does it seem that nobody ever gets held accountable? Why aren't the corrupt being arrested? Why are the courts failing families, patriots, whistleblowers? Why are they failing all these people across our country? And again, this answer goes back in time and back to a very quiet legal coup, something that happened about almost 100 years ago. So if you go back to 1933, again, we have to look back in time, JJ, if we want to understand our future. And I think people really, the education system, which is why Trump abolished the Department of Education, has done a great job of making sure we don't know who we are from a historical perspective. So if you go back to 1933, the moment our constitutional republic was effectively placed under permanent emergency rule, basically the coup of 33, President FDR declared a national emergency, as I said earlier, under the Trading with the Enemy Act. But FDR amended the law to include the American people, basically redefining us as an economic enemy of the state in a financial sense. And Congress actually had the audacity to back it up with the Emergency Banking Relief Act. And then later that year, I don't know if you're familiar with this, there was the House Joint Resolution 192, which ended the gold standard and basically ended our right to pay debts with lawful money. So our Constitution was sidelined. Our constitutional money was thrown out the window. And the start of a government by emergency decree is what really happened. So basically in 1938, that's when our Constitution got totally bypassed. In 1938, there was a Supreme Court ruling. It was Erie Railroad versus Tompkins. This case gets referenced a lot, but this is what eliminated the federal general common law and combined it with the federal rules of civil procedure. Basically, it merged law and equity into an administrative process. And that same year, I talk about this regularly, Congress passed what's called the Administrative Procedure Act, which gave basically the birth to the modern federal agency state. This is what we have governing us today, the the agency of CDC or the FDA or the DOD or whatever. This is what unelected bureaucrats are allowed to flourish in, and they can make their own rules. And this is all done out of the constitutional law and due process. So instead of being governed by our Constitution, we're basically governed by regulations, executive orders, statutory presumptions, and we're continually living in a perpetual state of emergency, which most people don't even know or realize it. So this is where the courts have been destroyed. You had common law courts, which was based on the Constitution. They're basically gone. That's when you had to, those courts dealt with injury, property, any contract disputes, that kind of stuff. You have courts of equity. These are courts of good conscience and fairness, and these were basically meant to deliver remedy when the common law failed, sort of like enforcing a trust or restoring custody or protecting your rights. These courts still exist under Article 3, but the people have to know how to invoke it properly. And so today people are going into court, JJ, and they're representing themselves as this dead entity. And I could break this down in another show, how all that happens, and there's statutes and codes behind it. But by doing that, they are misapplying the court of equity into an admiralty court, and they're not getting equity. They're getting railroaded by the commercial court. And so these become contract-based courts, not courts of justice. There is an equity court that everybody knows, and it's going to freak you out when I tell you what it is. Judge Judy is a court of equity. She sits there, even though she shouldn't be in the black robe. That's really for theater. That's part of the IMDb showtime. But if she's a real court of equity, which she is, when you tell a judge that you're not there as a presumptive dead entity, that you're there as a living man or woman, they're supposed to take you to the back room, have a private conference with you, take off the robe, lay down the American flag on their desk and say, okay, how can I help you? So when you're not dealing in a court of equity, you're never going to get justice. You're never going to get remedy. When you're dealing in a commercial court, you're dealing with their criminal statutes and codes and rules, and you are being railroaded as a commercial entity, and you're not going to get that jury. You're going to get that bench trial. So criminals in power is never arrested, child protective services, kidnapping your kids without due process, why you're fined or jailed by these alphabet agencies without ever seeing a court of record. We've got to unbury the Constitution. We've got to use the court of equity to do it.
Oh, great history lesson. I always learn something from you, Ann Vandersteel. Thank you very much. Can you tell our audience, where's the best way to find you? Where's the best way to help you, especially your show that's on weekly on Worldview Tube, and what you're doing to fight what you just talked about with CPS and no due process?
Sure. American Made is our weekly show on this platform at 7 o'clock Eastern. In fact, we're going to break down the Court of Equity with Maureen Steele hosts the show with our guest, Carrell. He's an expert on it. And we're working with him right now to come up with some very simple procedures for people to actually go win in court finally and get some remedy here. I can be followed at AnnVandersteel.com, where it has all my social links, at Ann Vandersteel on all social media platforms. And of course, please support the work we're doing at American Made by going to AmericanMadeFoundation.org or AmericanMadeAction.org, which is where we are teaching people how to actually stand up and fight back.
Ann Vandersteel, thank you so much. And God only knows what we're going to be talking about next week. Who knows? But it could be.
That's right, JJ.
Worse,
have a good week.
You too. Thank you, Ann. Bye-bye. Ann Vandersteel, go to, if you want to stay in the head of the curve of information, go to her website or go to her X account at Ann Vandersteel. I frequent that at least once a day just to see what her takes are on what's going on. Ann Vandersteel, incredible. I showed you video after video of the burning of LA and the burn that's going to go through from nokings.org. And one of the ways that we talk about on this program is being prepared. And one way you have to be prepared, and I'm going to pound this down because I believe in it, is the ability to communicate with your family and be connected. And that is sat123.com, sat123.com/JJ. Why is this more important now than it was, say, last week when we talked to Chris from Sat123 on Fridays? Well, because now we're watching the riots in Paris, and the burning of the infrastructure in Europe is now happening here in America at our largest city, Los Angeles. It is now gaining ground in New York. And then that fire will burn fast and rapidly across America. And one way, these are not Again, these illegal aliens and these manipulated youth, they're just pawns. The big players are the NGOs that want to fundamentally destroy the United States of America. So if you don't think that they're going to attack our infrastructure, then you have not been watching this show very long, or you are just willfully ignorant, because they are going to go for our infrastructure. Do you want to be in a city that's on fire and you can't get a hold of your family? You can't simply call 911. You need a sat phone. I have mine. Go to sat123.com/JJ or the number on the screen. You don't have money to get a sat phone. I understand that. But when you get a monthly service plan from Sat123, you get you get your sat phone for free. For free. You can go to Costco, you can go to all these, Amazon, it's going to be $500, $600, $1,000. You get it for free. And then you're connected and you're prepared. You're prepared for a war. And we are in a war. We are absolutely in a war. Sat123.com/JJ. All right. Who's funding this? Well, Walmart is one of them, or one of the heirs of Walmart. And she puts a disclaimer on this post I'm going to show you, where this does not have anything to do with anybody except Christy Walton, an heir of Walmart. Well, what am I talking about? Can you pull this up for me, Caleb? This is a post, No Kings, June 14th, mobilize. This is from her own account. She is propagating this. The heiress from Walmart, worth billions of dollars. She's funding it. Have you ever asked, well, how? I don't understand. This is from Christy Walton. I don't understand how bricks get dropped off. Have you seen in your life, you're just driving down the road and a forklift comes out of nowhere and drops pallets of bricks in the middle of the road? I have never seen that. I have lived a very long, exciting, at times mundane, but never just like nothing's happening kind of life. I have never seen pallets of bricks, cinder block, concrete, just dropped off in the middle of the street. These are the people that are funding it. These are the people that are coordinating this. God. It makes you think twice, right? To go to Walmart and the big box stores. We talk about this. We talk about taking your power back and Patriots Made and buying products from Sat123. Because why would you buy products from companies that hate you, despise you? Christy Walton, she's funding it. Who else? I want to show you, this is an ad on Craigslist. I'm going to read it to you. Okay? Now think about Christy Walton, because this costs a lot of money to pay people to do violent things with the threat of going to jail, dying, or being injured. This is on Craigslist. This is how they find their agitators. The title, Looking for the Toughest Badasses in the City, Los Angeles. How much are they going to pay extremely tough, brave men for new crew I am building? How much are they going to pay them? $6,500 to $12,500 per week. This is, quote, we are forming a select team of the toughest dudes in the area. This unit will be activated only when the situation demands it. Caps. But you get paid every week no matter what. Huh. You're going to pay people $12,500 a week to protest. Let's go to the next one of who is funding this. This is from Mike Benz's X account. Let me read this. It's talking about Karen Bass, okay? And Mike Benz digs into people, and he finds it, as they call the receipts. Quote, "It's crazy this riot is in L.A., while the mayor of L.A., Karen Bass, was for 6 years on the board of NED, the CIA cutout that specializes in starting riots and street protests. Before she helped the CIA start riots, she was a community organizer and professionally organizes protests." Who else does that sound like? President Obama. Do you think President Obama was really just this shooting star? Do you really believe that? He was a senator for 2 years. He was a nobody. The great Wayne Allen Root has written article after article after article about the people at Columbia, his classmates, the professors, have no idea who Barack Obama is. Barry Sartero. They never saw him in Columbia. We still don't know where he's born. We have no idea about, think of what I'm saying. The former sitting president for 8 years, we still do not have any answers to any of his history. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Mike Benz, he lays it out. You want to follow someone that knows? That's who you do. That's who you follow. Now, I want you to listen to this putz. Chief of police that said, I'm not helping Border Patrol, ICE, they're on their own. But now your city's on fire, sir. Now he has to get involved. Even this putz, even this beta male speaks the truth about really who's behind this. Go ahead and play this, Caleb.
But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their feelings about the immigration enforcement issue. These are people who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on. They've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time, get away with whatever they can, go out there, from one civil unrest situation to another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
Why don't you do something about it? You got street cameras everywhere. Why don't the moment you see anyone do anything, tag them and find them and arrest them immediately? Immediately. Won't do that. It's as if nobody's planned any of this. No one's done any tabletop exercises. How is that possible? Look, we're talking about, I showed you the post from the Walmart heiress. She's connected to Walmart, obviously. Her family believes the same thing she does. She's not an outlier. Why would you continue to go to the big box stores to buy the products that kill you, the products from companies that hate you, that want the Department of Education, that want to have control over the CDC and the FDA and HHS, that provide products to you that have 10, 15, 20 ingredients that are banned for that same product in Europe and Canada? But they feel emboldened to be able to put metals and plastics in your food, in your water, in your lotions, in your shampoos. But we continually go to them and buy those products. How do you do that? How do you take your power back, as Kim Yeater says? Well, you go to patriotsmade.com, patriotsmade.com/JJ. Why do you go there? Because it's a company that is top-notch, that is American-made, American-owned, American-run, ran, and they provide products made in America that are clean, don't have metals and plastics in it. They're not going to kill you, and they're less expensive. And the company loves America, is not taking their profits and turning them back and giving it to people and organizations that despise you. I think it's very easy choice. What are the products that I use? I take their daily vitamin packets that have completely helped me and changed my well-being. And the thing that I love, because I'm fast, I go through all kinds of, I'm moving constantly. I'm working out, and I'm walking the dog, and I'm doing the yard, and I'm picking up my son, playing sports, and I need something healthy in between all that movement. So I just grab their power bars, and they're delicious. My pantry has a whole corner just stacked with their power bars. They're healthy, grab and go power bars. I love this product. That's why I have them as a sponsor on this. patriotsmade.com/JJ. We are having hundreds of our viewers since I've been doing this, probably over 1,000 now, have switched over, that have become part of this movement. Take your power back. Take your buying power. We're talking about serious money buying power. Stop giving our money to the people that hate us. Same thing I say to the government. Why are you continue funding NGOs that hate us? Same thing I'll say to you. Why are you funding organizations that hate you? It's a valid question. We have to choose sides. I'm going to go through this next segment is, whoa. When you really rip the Band-Aid off of the evil that is our government, that is the leaders of the institutions of our government and major agencies and departments, it makes sense. It's completely makes sense. You have Marxists and socialists and anti-American haters inside the halls of Congress. You have illegal aliens that are in our state governments as politicians. I'm going to show you a video of this woman, one of the largest education districts in the country. It is reported that she makes over $500,000 a year as a union leader within this education district out of LA. Take a look at this woman and listen to her words.
We the people! We the people! We the people! Yes! All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice!
That's teaching your kids, or she's creating the curriculum to teach your kids. Did you hear the cheers or the lack of them when she said it's the pursuit of happiness? The pursuit of justice, and even those dumbasses in the back are like, I don't think it's justice. Well, let's just clap anyway. Oh, okay, yay. She makes $500,000 a year. You're paying it. Department of Education funnels money down, and it all goes to administration. You're paying for it, all of it. Let's take a look at this guy. Is disgusting. He's been around forever. I remember this guy. He's congressman of some of the areas that are that the riots are happening. This is Congressman Padilla, with an absolute allegiance to anything other than America. Watch this jackass.
For taking time out. Give us your thoughts. What's your take on what's happening in downtown LA at this moment?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so much. It's almost where do we begin? So I think to speak to the protest, what's happening right now, people have asked, what's the message for the folks that are out there demonstrating? And my message is keep protesting. Protest peacefully for sure, but keep protesting because Donald Trump wants one of two things. He either wants us to go away quietly and let him continue to abuse his power and overreach, or he wants folks to, as we've seen the last couple of days, that have exploited the situation to justify his overreaction with bringing in the National Guard. We've heard him threaten bringing in the Marines to restore order. That is not necessary, and it's counterproductive. You know, I've talked to the chief.
Can you do something for me, Caleb? Can you just pull up a still shot of that video? It doesn't need just any clip of that. Yeah, right there's good. You can pull that up on the screen. This is very important that I like to do is I like when people are talking, I like to see what's in their background. Like their books, what kind of books they have prominently displayed. And look to our right, his left. You think you would have a clay figurine of, say, maybe the Bear of California or George Washington or something that's patriotic about America? No, Mr. Padilla has a figurine of a woman that lives in Mexico that is doing her daily shopping or going to work in the fields. I think that says a lot. I think it says a great deal. We have people like Padilla. We have Dalia Ramirez, the obese Guatemalan illegal alien congresswoman from Illinois. We have illegal aliens that are running our country, that are in the halls of Congress. At the very minimum, we have the vast majority or a significant majority of our congressmen and senators have dual citizenship, meaning they have dual allegiance, meaning they have no allegiance to the United States of America. You can't have split allegiance. You can't go to war and fight for the red, white, and blue when you have another flag tugging on your heart. Who is that? Who is another illegal alien that should be arrested and deported? Well, that would be Ilhan Omar. And this next clip from Laura Loomer, who is, some people just disdain her. I find her to be incredible. Donald Trump should hire her and just tell her, I don't want you in the public. I just want you verifying every single person within my reach that has contact with me. Listen to what she asked Tom Homan just yesterday about Ilhan Omar. It's unbelievable.
Now that Republicans are back in control, can we expect to see some type of immigration investigation into Congresswoman Ilhan Omar? There was a report, this was a story I broke, and it's since been confirmed that she married her brother and committed immigration fraud. Can you speak to whether or not there's any investigations into Congresswoman Omar's immigration fraud via the marriage to her brother? And whether or not her citizenship could potentially be revoked if you guys also find that she did, in fact, commit immigration fraud and student loan fraud?
I can't discuss any investigation.
Okay. All right. Well, I figured I would just ask because a lot of people always wonder why we have jihadists serving in Congress, why we have anti-American immigrants serving in Congress who are, perpetuating this open borders mentality.
We're aware of that situation, but I can't discuss it.
Oh, so you are aware of it. Okay, great. So you guys are aware.
Listen to what Tom Homan said. I can't discuss ongoing investigations. Well, then obviously there's ongoing investigation. You think I'm crazy? You think there's not illegal aliens in our Congress? Well, let's listen to an illegal alien profess that she's an illegal alien in the state representative from Minnesota. Go ahead and play this one.
Because his mother had died. My father, as the one processing the paperwork, put my grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country.
Why is she not arrested? There needs to be so much action taken against these traitors. We have allowed tens of millions of people to invade our country. Why? Because we have invaders inside of our power structure of our republic, state, local, and federal. Wake up, America. We have had the Trojan horse has already come in and offloaded. Now we're in a war. We're in a war for the soul of our nation. Be prepared and be ready to fight.